This is Jean Moore with More Than Sports. I am here finally. We got it going on here with Aaron Fentress. He is a sports writer for the Oregonian. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on the show tonight.
No problem. Glad to be here. I've been wondering and waiting for you to have me on. Like, I thought, what's that? Why, she has all these other people on. Why can't she have me on?
Right? And here you are. Your dream has come true.
Right.
So, like I said, you're a sports writer for the Oregonian. What made you want to be a sports writer?
Uh, you know, pretty much it came down to my parents had jobs they didn't necessarily like.
Mm-hmm.
So I always had this dread of like, high school's over and you go to college, like, you're going to end up in a job you hate, but you have to have a job to survive. Like, it just seemed, it mortified me. Like, as a kid. So I was thinking, like, well, obviously most kids grew up with dreams of, playing sport. Not most kids, but kids who love sports dream of playing sports.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's that dream as a kid, but I was always pretty realistic about the world, so I knew that was a one in a million shot anyway. Not that I didn't try. I played sports, and stuff. But I was always thinking, if that doesn't work out, which is a high probability, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I was either going to coach or cover, write
Mm-hmm.
about. And when I was a kid, like, I think I started doing this in seventh grade. I would watch sporting events and keep my own stats.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'd build an NBA box score and I'd keep. At first, I would just do points, rebound, assists, and then I started doing shooting. And so, I mean, it's funny because then, like, say it's a playoff game, like, let's go back to like Lakers Houston 1986 West Finals or whatever. And then I'd have a discussion with my friend about the game, and they'd be looking at me all sideways because, like, I would remember, like, I took the stats. Oh, yeah, second quarter. Oh, man, when Byron Scott hit that jumper, and then, Hakeem Olajuwon came down and got the dunk over Ramos and was called for the foul, and it was 3-point play. And they'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you, dude? What are you talking about? Like, oh, my bad. I wouldn't want them to know that I kept stats.
Right. Just asked if the game was good or not. I don't.
We didn't want you to break it down to the finite details there. And one day, I asked my mom was like, "Why do you do this?" This is back in junior high, the final thing,
Mm-hmm.
high school. But I go, it's just fun, and it makes you watch the game closer. I go, I don't know, maybe maybe there's a job out there where you get paid to do that. And her being, a mom who knew nothing about sports was like, I doubt very seriously there's a job that pays you. And I remember this so vividly because I looked at her, and then I kind of looked back at the TV and the game, and I'm like, that doesn't make any damn sense at all. Someone's keeping these stats. There's stats. They're telling us the stats. There's going to be stats in the paper. There's going to be stats on Sports Center. Someone's getting paid to keep these stats.
Right.
I want that job. So anyway, I ended up focusing on becoming a sports journalist in 7th, 8th grade.
That's awesome. So where did you grow up?
Oh, man, this is complicated. So I was born in Chicago. My family lived there until I was 5. Then my mom and dad moved us to Oakland. There they split up. We stayed there for 5 years, though. And then my mom moved to Arizona and my dad moved to Portland.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I literally went half of 5th grade in Arizona, half in Portland, 6th grade in Arizona, 7th grade in Portland, 8th grade in Arizona. It was a small little town called St. John's in the middle of nowhere. I was the only African American within the city limits, mostly a Mormon town. And I made a lot of good friends there, but I was just like, I'm not going to finish high school, St. John's High School. This is like, not going to happen. Because I was living in 2 different worlds. Like in Portland, I had a lot of different types of friends.
Mm-hmm.
White friends too, but I also had a lot of black friends. In Arizona, I had all white friends, which I'm not saying anything's wrong with that, but
Right.
as a young black child,
Yeah.
where do I want to live? In a more diverse Portland area, which Portland is actually all that. I mean, it's diverse enough, but or do I want to live in a place where there were some racist kids that would call me the N-word every once in a while? So I made the decision. I told my mom I will stay here one more year, ninth grade, and then I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
The last 3 years in Portland, and then graduated from Grant High School.
Grant High School. All right.
Aiden Schneider.
Uh-huh. Yep.
He was Grant General.
I interviewed him. Great kid.
I interviewed him for a one-on-one for NBC Sports Northwest, and I kind of had this set up beforehand, but I was pretending like I was like, so Aiden, when you were at Grant, did you ever hear about the legend of Aaron Fentress? And he was like, no, I never heard of you to this interview or whatever. I'm like, come on, man.
I knew all these stats. Come on.
But that was fun. And I interviewed him with a G for General sticker in my suit pocket.
That's awesome.
Very happy with the fact that he was a general.
So have you always been a sports fan? It kind of sounds like you kind of have been. And did you play any growing up?
Yes. My parents, I vaguely remember this as a little kid, but they told me as young as 2, I would sit and watch football. I was obsessed with football. And I'd watch the football games with my little Nerf football. Anytime they ran instant replay, I'd imitate it. Pretend like I was in the replay and like stiff arming the furniture and spinning on the coffee table and diving into the end zone. At age 2, they were telling me I did this. So I was always into sports, especially football, my entire life. And I played youth football. I played high school football at Grant. I played football at Portland State, and then I transferred to Pacific University out in Forestfield and finished there and graduated with a degree in communications with an emphasis in journalism. And that set me on my way.
So you know the game then? Like you played at Portland State, you said?
Yeah, and Pacific.
Okay. What position did you play?
Receiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, and so it's like over the years, there's been some fans who'll be like, "You clearly don't know what you're talking about football." I'm just like,
So let's talk about that a little bit because there's times when you are known for a little bit of controversy. You know, a little. I know, right? I know it's shocking. I didn't believe it either when I saw it, but
what you talking about, Gina?
Is that like you? Do you love to stir things up?
I see. Here's the thing. I'm not really trying to stir things up. I'm just giving my opinion. The problem is when you're an objective human being in a fandom world, and understand, I'm a fan of sports teams too. I love the Bears. I love the Bulls. I love the Cubs. North Carolina basketball and Miami football. Those have been my teams since I was a kid, right? But when I read a reporter say something or tweet something negative about the Bears, I'm not going to call him an idiot or say, you don't know. I might disagree or challenge him, but I understand how to separate my emotions because I'm also a sports journalist. But I just see someone say something that I think is wrong or I know is wrong, and I just respond. I'm not trying to start trouble. It just ends up being trouble because a lot of people can't control their emotions and their passions for their team, and they're completely irrational. A lot of the debates I have with fans are completely irrational debates. Like, this person just cannot be logical and rational. Where that's all I'm being. Doesn't mean I'm always right or that you might not have a good point, but most people present it in a way where you can tell they're like all fired up. But here's a true story. I've had debates with fans about things related to the Ducks while texting members of the Ducks, whether it's a parent or a coach or a player, screenshots of what the fan is saying and going, dude, look at this. And they're like going, oh my God, these people are idiots. And the fan is swearing up and down that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's like, come on. There's probably some reason I'm saying what I'm saying. At least, even if you disagree, at least investigate it. Ask why. Challenge it. That's fine. You don't act like just making it up.
Right. Because you might know a little bit of what you're talking about.
I might know a wee little tiny bit of what I'm talking about and have inside sources who have given me information to back up my opinion. You know, it's like
exactly.
You know, I don't know. It's just funny. But yeah.
That's funny. So you're a sports writer. What exactly do you cover?
Well, right now I'm covering the Portland Trailblazers full time for the Oregonian and OregonLive.com. My first time covering the Blazers full time. I've covered them in bits and pieces when I was at NBC Sports Northwest. I'd help out some playoffs or something like that. This is the first time where that's my primary beat. And then on top of that, I still do some football enterprise for the Oregonian, so features here and there on mainly Ducks, and then I've done some film study things at Oregon and Oregon State. So that's pretty much it. Seahawks, I came into the fall thinking I'd still do some Seahawks stuff, but I was kind of in my mind biting off more than I could really chew. Like it's like the film review things I've done take a lot of time. And so focusing in on Oregon, because no one at the Oregonian has ever really done film review videos. So I really kind of made that the main focus and didn't do like Seahawks at all. But my primary beat is the Portland Trailblazers.
The Blazers. And how has that gone for you?
It's been fun. I jumped on the beat right before the bubble restart it started late July. And so I came in a situation where, they were going to the bubble and had to pretty much win 6 or 7 out of 8 games to make the playoffs. So it was a really exciting run there. Every game, like it almost had a college tournament feel. Every game was huge. Like every game was almost a virtual must-win. And so it didn't have a feel of a typical NBA season, which is kind of long and drawn out. So Fast forward to now, I'm in the early stages of a long and drawn out season. So it's a bit of an adjustment for someone who has primarily covered Oregon football and Seahawks football the last 15 years. I've always said football games aren't an event. Basketball games are just things that happen during a long season. And it's the truth. Like, I've already covered, like, they're 11-9. I've covered 20 regular season games and 4 preseason games. Now, it's a different world right now because of COVID. And I have the option of not going to the home games. There's no way in hell I'm traveling right now. So I've gone to a few home games and some I haven't because all the interviews are on Zoom anyway. So if you can't go to a locker room and interview people, why waste your time going to the arena? Although it is interesting to go to an arena when there's like 20 people in
Right.
There's only been like maybe at most 8 to 10 media members, and then there's other people doing whatever they're doing in the arena, but there's no one there, and you're watching an NBA game. That is a bizarre experience.
I bet.
Yeah, but I did that. I went to, I think I was on the 4 or 5, and now it's just so much easier to just, kick up on my couch. My wife finishes dinner. Dinner's ready. I go grab some dinner and eat dinner and keeping track of stuff and tweeting and then the dinner's over. I go up to my office where I am right now, and I call up the Zoom and do interviews. But 24 games already, and like 20 regular, so there's 52 to go regular season.
Wow.
52.
Wow.
Football, you're doing 12 to 14.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Ooh,
I didn't even realize they had that many games left.
Yes, it's relentless.
No wonder I couldn't get you for an interview until now.
Well, I mean, let's see, we were gonna do it, but what came up?
I don't even know. A Blazer game was the first thing.
We haven't set a date yet, and I said maybe Friday. And I ended up, the main reason why I bailed on Friday was because I had barely seen my family in a while. Like, you know what? I think I'm just going to take the night. I was exhausted. I wouldn't have
You might need to do that.
I wouldn't have been as lively and effervescent as I am right now. So I was like, I'm just going to bail on this. But, when I was trying to reschedule with you, I was looking at the schedule. And I was like, they played Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And you couldn't do it after 5, so it was either going to be tonight or Friday. But yeah, it's relentless, and it's nonstop. Like, so in between game days, they have media availability most of the time, but sometimes they have these things they call what they're called, health and rest days or something like that, where they're not available. It's called. And whenever I see the message for that, I'm like, thank God. Thank God. Because honestly, I have nothing. You just played back-to-back games. We talked to you after back. I have nothing else to ask anyway. Like, although I did an abdominal strain. So anyway, that's what I do. It's been a lot of fun, but it is relentless.
Well, and I hear that Dame knows who you are too. So how cool is that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
That kind of blew up a little bit.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay,
So,
about that.
yes, okay, about
You want
that.
to ask me? You want to ask me about that?
Sure. If you want to talk about that, we'll
What's
talk
your question?
I don't have a question. Just how cool is that? The Dame knows your name.
See, okay. First of all, like I said, I covered the Blazers before, so
So he's
Lillard
done.
knew who I was
Mm-hmm.
from when I was at NBC, Sports Northwest, which carries the Blazers. I hadn't had an interaction with him in a long time. He tweeted at me. He challenged one of my tweets in 2018 when I was talking about the West All Star and all the guards in the West and how tough it was for him to break into the All Star, and how tough it had been.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something like, "You need to do your homework, homie," or something like that. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, and he didn't respond. And then I got like a text message from one of our managers. He said, "Be careful what you say. People from the Blazers and NBC corporate are paying attention to this exchange." And I was just like, "Ooh, that's pretty big brotherish, don't you think? What do you think I'm gonna do? F you, Dame? Like what?"
Right.
So, and then of course, obviously, I've had interactions with them over Zoom through the bubble and the season.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's funny how that blew up so much on Twitter.
yeah, it was really a surreal, bizarre thing because, and then how people reacted to it. It just shows like one of my things is I'm always big on, and this comes from a journalist mentality, getting more information and more facts about a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because things aren't always what they seem. But the way people were portraying or trying to claim what I was thinking and feeling in that moment was just funny as hell to me.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things about that is that I had already put up a game rewind post, and then I'm updating it with quotes. Stocks went first. I was transcribing this quote, trying to get to them there. Someone else went, and then Lillard came out. And on Zoom, people raised their hand and they had a question, so their hand come up. And no one put their hands up for Lillard. He had just had 40 points and 13 assists against the Kings, right? And I'm trying to do all these different things, and I'm hoping that people are going to ask me a bunch of questions so I can listen to it while I'm doing this other stuff. And no one had their hand up. And he says, "Damn." I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "Fine." So I literally was like, "Fine." I'm like, going to the thing. And so I asked the question, and he gives a great answer like he always does. And then he gets done, and I'm ready to move on to what I was doing. And then all of a sudden he's like, and he says, "And I saw that tweet where you said me and CJ weren't the best backcourt in the league, too." And then the two threw me off because I was like, what's he bouncing this off of? And I wasn't sure if he was talking to me because I thought we were done. Right? So
Uh-huh.
the other thing is, the conversation I had on Twitter that he was referring to was from 5 days prior. Now, you just mentioned earlier, I'm known for stirring it up, which means I like to debate, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 days ago,
Right.
in my mind, could have been 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, that's why there's a silence for like 2 or 3 seconds. And then I go, today? Because I was like, did I tweet something today? What's he talking about? And he goes, well, also it could have been today because he had, had a big game, he had blah, blah, blah. And then he said the Wizards, and then it clicked. I was like, oh, and I started talking, and he was still talking, I started talking, and finally I go, oh, yeah, I raised raised the possibility because someone said that you and Dane, or you and CJ were the best by far, and I said, what about Dylan Westbrook? Which is exactly what I had tweeted, and then had an exchange with these people. And then he just gives me that stare, right? That went on forever. So it gets over with, and I wasn't going to say anything else unless he said something.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's done with, and I'm just like, what the hell is that? And my thing was, why? Like, it's not like I said, Elfrid Payton and R.J. Barrett. No offense to them. I mean, they're NBA players, they're good players, but they wouldn't be in the discussion for best backcourt, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned a former MVP 9-time All-Star, 9-time All-NBA, 2-time scoring champ, 2-time assist champ, and Bradley Beal, who was leading the league in scoring, was a 2-time All-Star, and Westbrook was averaging a triple-double. Like, that's not a debate. Like, so for him to be that incredulous about it was just weird.
Right.
So I was kind of tripping off of it, and then someone tweets to me the clip of it on SportsCenter like a half hour later, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding. So I record SportsCenter and I watch it, and I'm like,
oh no.
and then of course Blazer fans started getting on me. They're coming at me. I got an email from someone saying, good job, Fentress. Now Lillard hates you. You're an idiot for thinking that anyone's better than these two. And I'm just like, I never said they were better. I just raised the question.
Right.
So it was, and for someone like me, because like you said, you know how I am.
Mm-hmm.
I would have debated SportsCenter, Instagram, put it up. It had like 480,000 likes.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, Justin Timberlake liked it.
Dude, you're famous now.
My daughter noticed it. And matter of fact, the next day, my daughter was all upset. I go, what's wrong? She goes, why are people being so mean to you? This is stupid. She was affected by it. But I explained to her, like, look, this is part of the job. You know, it's not a big deal. Well, are you okay? I'm like, I need to try and explain to people, like, one of my first assignments ever was going to the home of a man who had just killed another man 4 days earlier in a bar brawl and was arrested for murder and then released because they determined it was self-defense.
Oh
I was 23 years old and I had to go to his house to do a tour.
Wow.
You think I'm scared of an NBA player sensitive because I compared him to Bradley Beal and Westbrook?
Right.
Like, even if we were face to face and he had challenged me on that, I'd have been like, but in that setting, I'm not going to come at him sideways. Where does that get me?
Right.
It'd be unprofessional. I'm not gonna, like, I could have just said, who's got more All-Stars, you or Westbrook?
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, have you ever averaged a triple-double? Or, I missed it. Do you have an MVP? These have been all legitimate, factual things. But one, I think Lillard's better than Westbrook. And two, I would never, that would be completely unprofessional and rude, and it wouldn't get me anywhere with him.
Right.
And also, all the other reporters who are on deadline from the 7 o'clock game, they don't want to waste time with me getting to a back and forth with Damian Lillard over who the best backcourt is. Like, they don't want to deal with that nonsense. So I handled it professionally, respectfully. But what got me is that people were saying I was scared, and I'm like, if I were scared, then why did I say to him exactly what I had said on Twitter?
Right.
I didn't say, oh no, Dane, you're the greatest ever. There's no comparison. I said, oh yeah. Someone said you two are by far the best. And I said, what about Beal and Westbrook? So I literally just said to this guy, I think these two might be just as good or better.
Right.
But I was afraid. Anyway, and through a mutual friend, because I don't have a relationship with Dane to the point where I have his number. But through a mutual friend, I had someone reach out because I'm like, my big thing was he couldn't possibly be upset about it. Like, had to have just been messing with him. So someone I know reached out to him, and he said, yeah, he's like, dude, Dane said there's no beef. He said, like, because if it was a big deal, I'd be like, bro,
right.
I don't want to argue this sensitive, but he just felt like, I cover the Blazers, I should have their back. And I get that to a certain point, but as I explained to the mutual friend who passed on to him, I was like, had two Wizards fans been on Twitter saying Beal and Westbrook are by far the best backcourt in the league, I would have been like, what about Dame and Steve?
Right.
So I really didn't have a horse in the race. I was on the fence.
Right.
So whoever says it's this, I'm gonna be like, no, it's not. If it's that, I'm like, no, it's not. Because I just like to engage like that. That's just how I am. So anyway, that's what happened. Things like that, it's just.
And you guys are cool now, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
when I see him face to face when COVID's over, he's like
Mhm.
28 if he's still in the league. Um, we'll have a laugh about it. He's Game is the thing about Lillard too. He is the ultimate professional, I believe. Like our interviews with him are by far the best I've ever seen. He's by far the best interview I've ever. I've never done one on one with him, but
Mhm.
post game Zooms or midweek Zooms or whatever. He will give you deep, introspective, detailed answers that are from the heart, that he means it. I believe him to be very, very honest. There's not one time where I was like, come on, man.
Mhm.
Whereas someone like Russell Wilson is very political. Like he wants to be very politically correct, and he will dance around things.
Hmm.
And I'm not criticizing him for that because he's very, very careful about his image. He's very, very
Mhm.
careful about not upsetting a teammate or upsetting, anyone.
Mhm.
He wants to be down the middle. He wants to be neutral. He wants to be non-threatening. 100% get it. He's built a great image, great career. Um, that's fine, but he's not always being completely genuine. Not that he's lying, he's just not being completely genuine. I,
Mhm.
I feel like Russell. I feel like
Dame.
James crap.
Damien.
Dave Phillips is very genuine
Mhm.
how he comes across. So the idea to me, and this is why I wanted to check on it, that he would have really been mad and held that against me didn't make any sense based on how I believe him to be. So
Right.
I just wanted to make sure because if he was upset about that, part of me was going to be like, whatever, forget you then. Another part of me was going to be like, okay, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Are you telling me I can't have an opinion that isn't 100% pro Lillard?
Mhm.
Salty to me? Like so anyway, that's what happened. It was interesting. But
That's
what
one.
crazy about it, though, wait, one more thing.
Yes.
The next night, they play back to back. Okay, the next game was the Indiana game when Nurkic broke his wrist. And so all of a sudden, I was off the radar. Blazers fans stopped coming at me and stopped caring about Dame. Dame took down Fentress. Some dumbass Blazers Twitter page, no respect for her, retweeted it and said, "Anyone want to see a dead body?" Because Dame allegedly killed me. Like,
Oh my gosh.
I'm so dead. Oh my god, Dame stared at me. Dame even said too through the mutual friend that he wasn't staring at me, that I had gone off the screen. He was looking where he was supposed to look. I was gone.
Oh. Okay.
Initially, he was looking at the first 2 seconds, but then I was gone.
Mhm.
The next person, next question, Dwight James, and then Dwight's up there. Or maybe he can't see anything. I don't know. But anyway, so that's the
Which
story.
is funny because then that gets blown out of proportion because
Right.
he's
It's like
staring
he
at you.
stared me down for 8 seconds. Now,
Yeah.
I could see it. So technically, if he thought I could see it, then he could have been. But
Uh
his thing was like, I was just waiting for the next question.
huh. That's one of my bucket list interviews is Damian Lillard and his brother Houston.
I've met
So
Houston a couple of times. He's a cool guy, too.
yeah, yeah, he's cool. I know him from 7-on-7, and I actually went to Vegas with their team and stuff like that. And so that's definitely one of my bucket lists is to interview them both. So we'll see if that ever happens. But
I
that
could definitely see Dame doing it. Like he's a really. I respect his personality, his persona, his work ethic, his drive, his commitment,
mm-hmm.
and that he is not the type of person who I would think would be, above doing an interview with anyone. Like
Right.
the time and one person to request, like
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have that relationship with Houston, I'm sure you can get along. That'd be cool.
Well, I mean, if I can interview you, then I mean, Damien should be a shoo-in, right?
I mean, I'm a couple notches above Damian, but he's slow. He's slow. One more All Star, he might match my status.
That's right. So, who's been your favorite person to interview?
Oh, Lillard. That's fine.
Lillard.
I
Okay.
already said that. So let's go. My next one. Um, Man, I'd have to think about that. Oh, that's always a hard question when people bring that up. So in a press conference setting, I think Bobby Wagner is awesome. Doug
Mhm.
Baldwin is awesome. Uh, I think CJ McCollum is pretty good. Wilson, although he's pretty politically correct, I find him kind of entertaining in that regard. Like, I think he does it. It's kind of fun to watch him go through the mental gymnastics to say some of the answers he says. Whereas a lot of people who actually cover the team on a full time basis, they
Uh-huh.
get tired of it. Like they didn't like to go to the press conferences sometimes. Um, let's go with Oregon. So my favorite people to talk to ever at Oregon.
Mhm.
So I covered Oregon. My first year was '04. And I covered through the '06 season for 3 years, and then I was off it until 2010, and then went 12 and 0. And I've covered him ever since, although I haven't been full time on the Ducks since the 2017 season.
Oh wow.
I've had us one year. But if I had to think of the players who I liked to interview the most, Ariana Springs was awesome. He
Hmm.
comes to mind. Uh, Michael Clay,
Mhm.
really good. Carson York was good. Coronas was solid, a little too much company man, but solid. Marcus and Herbert, horrible.
Really?
Come on, you know this. Give you nothing. You could
Yeah.
take, you could take any interview those guys ever did midweek and play it right now, and you could not name it. You could not know the record, the game, good mood, bad mood. They're so. And I'm not saying it's being mean. It's just how they
Right.
are. They're just not.
Mhm.
They're not talkers in that way.
Mhm.
They're not going to give good stuff. I think they have opinions, but I don't think they're um, extroverted about giving their opinions. They're
Right.
very cautious about calling. They're not going to call anyone out.
Mhm.
My favorite Mariota interview story. Uh, but I covered all 3 of his years. I believe. I don't know if this is a fact, but other than people who worked for Oregon and traveled with the team,
Mhm.
I believe that I'm the only person who covered every single game.
Wow.
Now I'm basing this on a couple of things. One, I know for a fact his parents didn't go to every game. I know Phil Knight was at every
Mhm.
game, and I doubt any fan went to every single road game during his entire career. If there's one out there, let me know. And then there was a lot of beat changes at the registered guard because during his career, I think it's when Mosley went to Oregon. I can't remember what year that is now, but it might have been. Although Mosley has covered every game anyway, but Mosley going there mid Mariota career meant whoever came in to replace him hadn't covered prior,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
I don't believe that like Rivals or 24/7, their guys, Matt Queen or oh my god, he's gonna kill me. I'm forgetting his name right now. Oh my god, I'm such an idiot. I'm getting old. Jacobson, Jacobson, Jacobson. That Jacobson. Anyway, that they didn't go to every game.
Mhm.
Um, AJ Jacobson, yeah.
Mhm.
Same initials too. Sorry, AJ. I'm getting old. I'm covering a team that plays every day. Seems like, and I just got a puppy. Anyway, my man AJ. So they never went to every game um, for some travel restrictions for their businesses. I'm almost positive. So anyway, why am I saying this? Because I was at every single Marcus Mariota press conference, every game he played, and
Mhm.
so obviously he knew who I was, and we had some exchanges. But do you remember in 2014 when Fisher went out and they lost to Arizona and then had that close game at Washington State?
Mhm.
Mariota
Mhm.
got sacked 12 times over those 2 games. The previous season, 2013, I think he was only sacked 19 times the entire year, 19, 21, something like that.
Wow.
For him to get sacked 12 times in 2 games, well, that's because Andre Y was out, Tyler Johnson was out this season, and Fisher was out. So they were playing Crosby and remember Pearson, the former walk-on who ended up starting.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, Washington State and Arizona were all over that year. True freshman year walk-on, right? So
Right.
anyway, he was just getting hammered. Fisher came back to the UCLA game, and he had a pretty clean game, and he blew out UCLA. So after the game, I asked Marcus, I was like, so having Fisher back, did that make you feel more comfortable? Something like I can't remember exactly what the word was. Like, did you feel more comfortable and confident in the protection?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, yes. Sacked 12 times the previous 2 games, right? But he looks at me and he goes, I always feel confident about all our guys in our offensive line. And so I look at him and I go, literally, I went. And he cracked a smile and laughed because he knew what I was making that face for. And I just let him give me his answer, and I was like, okay, thanks, Marcus. He wasn't good. Like for him saying, yeah, with Fisher back, that really made our protection better, and I felt more comfortable and I had more time. Well, in his mind, by saying that, you're disrespecting.
Mm-hmm.
Even though those replacements would probably be like, thank God Fisher was back.
Right.
So that was life with Marcus. I thought Kenyon Barner I had a really good one-on-one interview with him for a feature I did. That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So those off the top of my head were people that I remember were really good.
That's cool. Now, what's been the favorite part of your job? I mean, I know what mine would be in that situation, but what's
Just being around Marcus because he's cute.
no,
I'm kidding.
no, just like
I asked
me.
someone once. I won't say who it was, but I asked. We were talking about Marcus and him being sort of a heartthrob. And I asked this reporter. I was like, "So would you date Marcus?" And she said, "Who would date Marcus?" And I go, "Yeah, you're right."
True. I mean, I'm probably old enough to be his mom, so I'm probably
I'm
out,
joking.
but yes.
But she did say that. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, for me, it would be to meet all these athletes, see who they really are. Kind of the purpose of my show is to kind of humanize these athletes and really anybody I interview. I mean, like for you, I want people to know who you are as a person, aside from the sports writer, aside from stuff they see on Twitter.
Right.
Because a lot of that is just made up stuff or assumptions.
I am. I'm argumentative. It's true.
Some are assumptions. Like Dave staring at you that's an assumption.
Yeah, I love me a good debate. Anyway, so your question?
So, what's been the favorite part of your job?
You know, I love big events. Like, here's something funny for you. I've known so many sports writers. I wouldn't say as much in football because it's short season, but a lot of basketball writers. But it's some football writers who like they can't wait for the season to be over.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just a job for them. Whereas me, I'm like, no, I want it to go as far as the team can go. I want to cover big events. Now, obviously covering Oregon, I've had a chance to cover major bowl games, Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, national title games. And I was in New York for Mario Heisman win, Final Four, basketball team up to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I wouldn't want to cover a team that didn't go to those things. That wouldn't be fun. I mean, I'll tell you right now, Alamo Bowl, I will never go again.
Not fun, huh?
Well, it's they just okay. It wasn't because they were lesser bowls. It was just the atmosphere was really, really bad, and Ducks fans have not traveled to either of those games.
Mm-hmm.
I hated that stadium, but if you're covering a team where that's the peak, is the Alamo Bowl, your mindset's going to be different, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But if you cover a team that's had bigger and better events, going to the Alamo Bowl is going to be a bit of a downer, which I think is why a lot of fans didn't go. I spent a bunch of money on the Rose Bowl and the National Championship game. The last few years, I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on the Alamo Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But so for me, I want the team I'm covering to get to the bigger events because that's more fun to cover. And I've had the opportunity to cover 4 Super Bowls, including both Seahawks Super Bowls, and both being
Wow.
Wilson. So yeah, as a kid who grew up loving football, as we talked about,
Mm-hmm.
my dreams of winning a Super Bowl ended, at 22. So what's next? To, you know, cover a Super Bowl. When I was a little kid growing up, I know, like that seemed like an outlandish that I would ever get to go to a Super Bowl. You always heard about how much tickets were, how impossible it is. I not only got to go to 4 Super Bowls, I got paid to go to 4 Super Bowls, staying in
Yeah.
my hotel and order room service while going to 6 Super Bowls, 4 Super Bowls, and all I had to do for that was to type a bunch of stuff
Right.
I do in my sleep. So, for me, the big events are awesome. And then, you do build relationships with
Mhm.
with players that you still keep in touch with periodically. Or, I was at the combine. I ran into Michael Clay. Like I said, I did a feature on Michael Clay. Got to know dad. What about him? He left. What was his final year? 12, I think. 12 or 13.
Yeah.
So, you know, he moved back to Baltimore. I'm not hanging out with these guys.
Hmm.
But I bumped into him at the combine last February, NFL combine. And I was like, Michael. He's like, oh, bro, hug, whatever. Hey, how you doing? Reminisce, talk about the old times, whatever. Like, that's cool to get to know guys at a
Hmm.
different level than just you're a reporter. And you
Hmm.
get to know their families as well, too. Like, their families, like, every once in a while, you say hi to a few in touch with or whatever. And you build those relationships and of course Facebook friends with them. Hey, how you doing? What's up? Because you've connected with them because you've interviewed them and talking about their most precious asset, which is one of their kids.
Hmm.
99 times out of 100, you've written a story that they're going to connect with and feel really good about that someone took the time to write this detailed story.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of pride in that, and so you make that connection. Even when I cover preps, high school sports, like I mean, imagine you cover preps for a few years. How many people out there have scrapbooks or photo albums with your articles?
Hmm.
How many
Yeah.
people right now? Like the last time I covered preps was 17 years ago. So those kids are all 35, right? That graduated that year. They're 35 now. How many of them
Hmm.
have pulled up articles to show their 10-year-old kid or whatever?
Right. Hmm.
Something that I wrote back then.
Hmm.
You're building these, and I'm Facebook friends with some of the kids I covered in high school. Like we've had good relationships, and some of them they friended me, and I friended some of them, and you talk to them every once in a while, how you doing, or they get married, you congratulate them or whatever, or it's just
Hmm.
this kind of relationships that are always are pretty fun.
Relationships are huge. That's what I love. That's one thing I love about what I do. Being able to build these relationships. I cover high school kids and I've interviewed some NFL players and an MMA fighter. And, I mean, but it's building those relationships, I think, that for me makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
That's I think the one thing that I love the most about what I do is being able to, just like you, build those relationships with the kids, the families, the coaches, I mean, kind of everybody that's a part of their life,
right.
and see them grow and
I don't know what I have you. Looking to my right, but I have you on a different screen. Yeah, anyway, I'm like, okay, don't like that. Uh, yeah, no, it is. It makes you view things differently.
Mhm.
View them differently. You view what they're doing differently. A few years ago, when Braxton Burmeister was president, I remember he filled in for Herbert.
Mhm.
So there was a lot written and a lot said about that. Like that was Taggart's big steal from Arizona. He stole him from Arizona. He was looking a big deal about this recruit. And he got thrust in there and he clearly was not ready. Like
Mhm.
clearly. And so everyone's talking, right? Burmeister can do this, and Burmeister do that, and Burmeister this, and Burmeister that. And it's like, dude's 19.
Mhm. Exactly.
I actually wrote a column. I think the headline was "We all owe Braxton Burmeister an apology." And
Mhm.
my column was about it's not his fault he's being asked to do this. He should be he should have been the fourth string quarterback. But Travis Johnson left and Wilson left.
Mhm.
Herbert and Burmeister. He should have been fourth and redshirted. Instead, he's
Mhm.
out there trying to learn college football like right now in the Pac-12.
Right.
And then everyone's treating him like I think more number 8 or whatever. No, I think more. I think it was two. I can't remember what the number was, but everyone's treating him like just a body in a uniform, just a character, a piece on a chessboard. He's not doing the job he's supposed to be doing, and it's hurting the
Mhm.
team, and they're losing games, and And it's like, but underneath all that is a 19-year-old kid. Even
Right.
even Lockie.
Mm-hmm.
Used to Lockie take. I don't know how many times I was on TV or radio or writing, and I'm writing about Lockie's failings as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, man. He didn't ask for that. He's trying his hardest. He worked his ass off. He was doing his best. In the world of big time college football, you got to present the facts and what they are. So I always felt bad about that, you know.
Right.
But I think when you get to know the players like we do,
Mm-hmm.
you build a different level of sensitivity toward them than the average fan who just wants to see their team win.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
These
Right.
fans I see on Twitter, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
That's why.
I mean, it's too late. We're live, so you're fine.
They don't give a bleep about most of these kids. They don't. They don't. Like, you can tell during recruiting they don't care. When a kid's like, when a kid picks USC over Oregon and they're bashing them, or vice versa. I'm not just saying it's only Duck fans. You're announcing you don't care about these kids.
Mm-hmm.
You don't care about anything in a Duck uniform. People who are Oregon fans only care about Oregon players because they're at Oregon. That makes sense to a certain extent. But if you're a jerk to them, you don't think the players notice this? Then they know that you only like me because of what I am, not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so that's legit. Like I've talked to parents who are like, they hate some Duck fans. They see some of the stuff people say about their kid and they can't believe it.
Yeah.
They want to fight. So when you get to know these people like we do, you view them differently. I mean, you got some recruits on. You're going to follow those kids during their career.
Mm-hmm.
They have good games and be like, yes to them. If they have a bad game, you're going to be like, oh, that's too bad. You know.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Now, in my job, I have to be objective and report the reality either way. That doesn't mean I'm not going to have a certain feeling for them
Mm-hmm.
struggling or going through something and feel bad.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, I think being at big events and then getting to know some of these guys, uh, differently to where you can interact with them and talk to them, and just
Mm-hmm.
push them to it.
So, what's one of the most challenging things that you've had to overcome personally?
Oh man, dude, my life's a zoo. Well, I mentioned all the different places I lived, right? Traveling,
Right.
divorce, so sending me back and forth from state to state. We were never very well off financially, which is, takes a lot of people, but I think they did the best they could, given what we had. Um, so living in 4 different states, going to 8 or 9 different schools. Most people go elementary, middle, high,
Mm-hmm.
different schools in 4 different states. Leaving friends, getting back to friends, leaving here, leaving your parents, leaving, all that kind of stuff was pretty wild. And my family was kind of a circus. Like there was, I'm not going to get into all the details, but let's just say whenever I tell people the true details of my childhood, they're usually, and people who knew me as a kid, who weren't in my family but knew my family, like over the years, like when I'd run into them at whatever, a wedding or whatever, and they'd be like, "Man, I didn't think you were gonna make it."
Wow.
Like I didn't. I don't know how I just become so. Cause I'm kind of an L7 leaning. Like I'm kind of a square. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. Like my only device in life really is sports, Michael Jackson, and arguing. Like that's like it. But no, it was a very dysfunctional upbringing, childhood. And again, my parents did the best they could. I don't hate them. I don't resent them. They
Right.
and also I was adopted, so I was their adopted child on top of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I don't actually view it that much as overcoming because I handled it, and I think sometimes people are amazed that I did that, but for me, I just figured it out. I think a lot of that had to do with my grandmother, because my grandmother was present here and there as well, and she was completely grounded and completely normal, and completely right. Actually, that's her in the background. You see
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
back there. She passed away a while ago at age 86.
Wow.
So she had at the funeral, but she helped sort of keep me, in some kind of semblance of normalcy. So there was that. And then other than that, I mean, there's always the thing about the world and life and
Mhm.
being a professional or anything is you're gonna have, most people are gonna find some kind of issues in politics
Mhm.
with the profession. And I've had some of that here and there. I'm not gonna go into the details of it, but let's just say that there are some people out there I've worked with and for that I do not care for. But I think that's just a part of life, and how you navigate that is
Mhm.
really going to determine what you're able to do in your profession that you want to do, and
Mhm.
not let it push you to the point where you give up on what you want to do because of some bad experiences with some
Right.
incompetent people. Like I'm still amazed at some of the people I work under who are just like, how are you a man? Really?
Mhm.
I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. Uh, but so I would say those probably right now.
Mhm.
Probably other things I'm suppressing, but
Well, obviously it's life. We all overcome things on a daily, I mean, there's always things that will happen that you have to overcome. But, um, I think that is something, for you, that is overcoming, people telling you that, gosh, I'm surprised that you're here. I'm surprised that you made it. Like, that's overcoming. So, that's something to be proud of. I mean, look where you are now. And I think that's, yeah, it's a pretty amazing story, definitely to have, and something that you can inspire others with. Because there's a lot of kids out there that are the same way, and just need
junction.
that little encouragement.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of dysfunctional families, a lot of dysfunctional upbringings out there, and it's tough. It's tough, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I think again, like I said, my parents were not really like. My wife and I always talk about how you should have to have a license to have a kid. We have to pass a driver's test to drive a car.
Right?
There's some places where you will get a pet. When we got our cats, we got them from the shelter a few years ago, and they made us go through like checks.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have to do that for a kid. You just got to knock someone up. Boom, you got a kid.
Right.
It's yours by law. Unless you're just completely out there, yeah, obviously they can come take it away, child services. But I'm not talking about a drug addict, alcoholic, or a kid.
Right.
No, it's just dysfunction. Just
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to raise a kid. And that was my parents. They should not have adopted me. They should not have. They just weren't ready to handle it. And
Right.
but even though they weren't ready and they had issues, they did their best, and they did provide me with certain experiences that I do think made me stronger.
Mm-hmm.
But the things I did as a kid, I mean, I always had clothes on my back. I always had a roof over my head. I always had clean food in my stomach, right? So it's not like I was never abused. I was never beaten. I didn't even, they didn't even believe in spanking, right? So it was just that they were just a mess. Um,
Right.
but being able to navigate that part of my life as a kid
Mm-hmm.
really set me up to be able to handle things later. Like some of the things I see teenagers crying about, or kids complaining about, it's like, or even my kids.
Mm-hmm.
My son's pretty good. Like,
Right.
I don't want my mom's iPhone 6. I want the new iPhone 8.
Uh-huh.
When I was a kid, I had an iPhone 0. So
Right.
not that
Exactly.
they had cell phones when I was a kid, but my point is like I would have never had a cell phone as a teenager.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I say this, but I just got my daughter iPhone. Only because it was a great deal, though. They were on sale, and I couldn't. It's a family pack.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I showed her.
So let's talk about your family.
Okay,
So you have two kids.
3.
How
One
how
out
old
of
are
the house, 2 here.
Oh, okay. So how old are they?
So I had a son when I was 21. He is 31.
Okay.
He is amazing. He played baseball at David Douglas, went to University of Portland. Now he works for Amazon.
Nice.
He's killing it. Like he owns like property with a big ass house and a horse barn. And his fiance's living with him. They get married. They were supposed to get married last summer in Hawaii, but that got canceled because of COVID. He does all these investments. He's just doing great. He's just,
Wow.
he's just he paid off. Like when he went to USC, it was expensive, and so
Mm-hmm.
he got a half tuition scholarship, and then the rest was loans and not in. And he got a college, got a job, and helped pay those things down.
Wow.
It was amazing. I was like, dude, you're the greatest son ever. So no, I'm very proud. His name's Isaiah. I'm very proud of him. And then with my wife, we have two children. 16-year-old Karen, who is a sophomore at Sunset High School. She plays basketball and dance and golf. We just pick up golf.
Mm.
Golf team if they have a golf team. And then my son Peyton is in 8th grade. They're both Laker fans. He's a huge Laker fan and loves McCollum. And he plays baseball and plays guitar.
Nice.
Yeah, the guitar thing's cool because he's really gotten good. And he'll just play in the house and it's just like this acoustic guitar sitting in the house.
Wow.
He's been playing it for like 6 years. I'll never forget. Because at first it's like, just learning the chords, right?
Mm-hmm.
Playing Mary, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, he's playing Every Breath You Take by the Police,
Wow.
which is like, I made a list of my top 10 non-Michael Jackson songs ever. That's one of my favorite songs ever. And he's playing it. Like,
That's
playing.
cool.
And I'm like, thank God my money for these lessons is
Right.
like he's actually playing it. And like he plays, like he reads music, and like it's really cool. So it's kind of nice to just have every once in a while he just starts playing and you just hear his music in the house.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. My son played drums.
Oh, so you have,
Yeah. So
so
we
you
had,
know,
we had
oh
a group.
God, we stopped practicing.
Yeah. Luckily that didn't go past go past middle school. So
Was that because you staged a break in and someone stole them?
right?
Someone broke in this window and stole your drum
Yeah.
set. They're
the
not
only thing
insured,
they
and international law says you can only have one drum set per childhood. I can't help you.
Exactly. And then he went into music and drama and all that. So hey, I'll take that over drums. He was good, but drums not so good.
The best revenge for a friend or a adult spouse that you want to get back at is to buy their kids a drum set.
Yep. Exactly. So when he has kids, I'm gonna do that.
There you go.
So yeah, my daughter has 2 kids, and so my 2 grandkids, and so I make sure to, I give them all the noisy toys and all the stuff that makes it fun.
The more batteries and noises, the better.
Best thing ever. So how do you balance that? You obviously are very busy, and we already said how many Blazer games are left. How do you balance? How do you balance family life?
When's this All-Star break coming? No,
Right.
I joke. I can't complain, especially with COVID because we're not traveling. Like I'm literally watching Blazer games on my couch and writing.
See, that's nice.
I'm joking about the complaint stuff.
Yes.
But no, it's definitely a challenge. I would say football was perfect because of the once a week thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would go to Eugene for 1 or 2 days during midweek. I usually would come back and I'd be home that night or whatever. So obviously during the fall you miss everything that happens on a Saturday. My daughter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Miss that or whatever. My son had fall ball this past year. I wasn't covering the Seahawks or Ducks when we were playing fall ball. So I didn't miss the previous year when I covered Seahawks and Nebraska Athletic, I went to all 18 Seahawks games, and I went to like 8 Duck games. So I went to like 20-something games, which seemed like a lot then, but now I'm doing basketball, it seems like nothing.
Yeah.
All of his fall ball games, and my wife would have to send me videos or whatever. So I couldn't imagine, I'll tell you this right now, if covering the Blazers meant traveling to 41 games, I wouldn't do it. I know so many people who their marriages have crumbled on this type of thing. They've gone so much. And, your kids are only young once. And
Right.
I'm not going to miss, my son. I mean, you're going to miss something. Like I said, I missed some fall ball games. But, like, if he plays high school baseball, they got a playoff game, Sunset versus Forest Hill in a playoff game, I'm not going to miss it because there's media availability at the Blazers facility.
Right.
And be like, someone got the feeling for me, or I'll watch
Hmm.
it years later if my son kicks it. But you know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
that's once in a lifetime.
Exactly. It goes fast.
Yeah, another another Blazer game. Well, they play 82 a year.
Hmm.
That's my plan for this beat. Don't tell my editors because I haven't gone over this yet with them, but that's my plan. Um, but yeah, there's a balancing act. Now, at the same time, though, again, like it's like if I'm not at an event or at practice, I'm working from home,
Hmm.
and I can work different hours. Like say I'm writing a feature on somebody that we're going to publish Friday. Well, I can work on it tonight.
Hmm.
My kids go to bed because they have to get up for school, even Zoom school. I can work on it tonight, and then it's done or almost done, and then I turn it in, and then I can just if the kids are going to school, I can hang out with the kids some of my family.
Hmm.
So you do have that flexibility with your hours, with your time,
Right.
but there still are stretches where you're knee deep and stuff. There's breaking news, and there's a game, and there's media availability. We got like 4 or 5 things in the next couple of days, and you're checked out. But I think
Mhm.
you're, in our profession, you're able to balance it out. I believe because you are working from home most of the time. You're not.
Yeah, that's nice. That is nice. It's a nice advantage, I think, to be able to work from home and still be present for your kids. If they need anything, you're there. So,
And I
especially
think,
now during COVID.
yeah, I think it's been that way since they were born. So like, I remember when my first stint with the Oregonians. I went Oregonian into Sports Northwest Athletic back to the game in Vegas. Back when I was covering the Ducks back in the day, my daughter was born in '04. My first year covering the Ducks, and my son was born in '06.
Hmm.
So I was writing stories about Dennis Dixon while changing diapers, you know, um, or re-listening to an interview while I'm feeding my daughter.
Right. Yeah.
What did Bloody say? Oh, yeah, okay. But so that's a definite benefit, that I've had.
Hmm.
A lot of time with my kids.
That is nice. So, last question. Do you have any advice to others that, maybe this is the career they want to get into, being a sports writer, being a journalist, interviewing athletes? What's your advice to them?
Well, our profession is very dicey these days. Have a fallback plan. I say that with a smile, but I'm serious. Have a fallback plan. But I think if it's your passion and you're like me when I was a kid, when I was like, I'm not going to be in the Super Bowl. I want to write about the Super Bowl.
Hmm.
Then try and try to make yourself more valuable. Be able to cover a lot of different things. One thing that tripped me out, man, was when no seriously, when when I was at NBC Sports Northwest and they would talk about different regionals searching for different people, they were always looking for someone who was already covering that beat, right? So it's
Hmm.
weird how the timing worked on that because if I wasn't covering the Ducks and NBC was looking for a Ducks person, they wouldn't have considered me. I'd been covering the Seahawks. The range just wouldn't have made sense. And to me, that's just corny because it's like if you're a good reporter and writer, you can cover anything,
Hmm.
anything. And
Hmm.
so you should be looking for people who are really good at covering stuff, not just one little thing. And I would say to people, don't get pigeonholed or stereotyped or whatever as being only this. You're only doing this. You're only doing that.
Hmm.
It's wrong. Because where I come from, where I was born and raised, and where I still consider you know high-end mainstream journalism at a major newspaper. But we say whatever we want about the newspaper, physical newspaper itself, but yeah, the circulation has dropped down, but the readership on the websites is still,
Hmm.
in most instances, still have that journalistic mindset that's been this way for hundreds of years, a couple hundred years. But you have to be able to be versatile and allow your reporting skills and your ability to be objective and look at things from multiple angles and always seek information and not jump to conclusions and understand that there's always a story behind the story. I don't know. Like, I get criticized sometimes by people who are like, "You're always defending something." I go, because how many times in our society do we jump to conclusions about something that ends up being wrong?
Mm-hmm.
How many times in society do people label something that ends up being wrong because they don't know what they're talking
Mm-hmm.
about? So, Twitter now has become modern day lynching. Like,
You're right. Mm-hmm.
you said something I didn't like. You should be fired. I'm coming at you. And the person doing it has no clue what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like none. But they're coming at you. You know,
Right.
me, I feel like part of the reason why I get into so many debates with people, and part of the reason why I will play devil's advocate, is because of my experience as an objective journalist who's trained to look at both sides and has done so in serious situations. I've covered murder trials where the defense team is saying the person's innocent, or they're at least saying it wasn't premeditated. Let's not gas them. Let's just and the prosecution says no, it's this. Well, how do you cover that?
Mm-hmm.
You can't have an emotional opinion about it.
Mm-hmm.
Objective and report the facts as given to you and be able to look at both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that in this business. You're going to end up being a homer who no one's going to take seriously. Yeah, readers, the homer readers are going to love you because you're always positive.
Right.
Actual educated people will be like, you're not objective. And as
Mm-hmm.
much crap as I get from Duck fans sometimes, I've blocked like 700 people. I've more muted. But none of them have ever, none of the people who allegedly hated me for being a quote unquote hater, which is just idiotic. Here's the thing: no player, no former player, no former coach, no former parent has ever called me a hater.
Mm-hmm.
I have fans who don't get what I do for a living, but they never come up to me in person. And I did TV for 6 years. Doing TV, you get recognized. I get fans come up to me on road games, airports, Watson, supermarket, whatever. The people who come up to me, 9 times out of 10, they say, "Thanks for being objective. Thanks for keeping it real. Thanks for saying what I'm thinking, but no one else will say
Mm-hmm.
else, but not everyone else." You
Right.
probably watch Talking Ducks. Who was on Talking Ducks with? Joey Harrington, Jordan Kent, Anthony Newman.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Newman tried to convince us that the Ducks were going to beat the Huskies in 2016 when they lost 72 to 10 or 21 or whatever it was. And I was on the show like, no, they're going to get snapped. But again, so you need to be objective in your profession and be fair and do your due diligence and seek information. And you
Mm-hmm.
have opinions that might be slanted one way or the other, but as long as you can back them up and you're fair, then you can always maintain your journalistic integrity. And that's important. Ethics and integrity.
And have thick skin.
And have thick skin. And I'll be honest, I sometimes I let my someone said to me once, it was Jason Quick, a long time ago. Jason Quick, who works for the Athletic, covering the Blazers. He used to work at the Oregonian with me, and an NBC Sports Network with me. He said to me one day, this was like 6 years ago, and he goes, "Why do you argue with some fool with 60 followers?" Something like that. And I was like, and Brianne Moranthus used to ask me that too. And at the time, I didn't really know that no one else could see it other than their followers or whatever. That when I engaged with them, that brought other people who didn't see it. Because I was kind of new to Twitter. Um, and I was like, that's a good point. But my thing is, if someone says something completely uneducated and dumb, I feel a responsibility to try and educate them. To try and like, say, dude, that's not right. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've had, I'll tell you a quick story. Okay, your time.
Yep. Sure.
Oregon State. Do you remember in 2015 when Vernon Adams was hurt?
Mm-hmm.
They were playing Washington State, and that
Mm-hmm.
shootout that Washington State came back and tied it, I think went overtime or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the second to last possession, Oregon had the lead. Royce Freeman was in the game. And I think they ran ties, and they ran Benoit, and then they had a holding penalty or a personal foul, and they ended up playing. So the Twitter fans freaking out. Helfrich is an idiot for taking Royce out. Helfrich is an idiot. Helfrich is an idiot. So I saw it. I could just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, okay, first of all, Gary Campbell sets the running back to the pace.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So I said that to a couple of them. I'm like, do you think Campbell's an idiot? We all know everyone loves Gary Campbell. So all of a sudden they backed off from the idiot stuff. Well, no, he's not an idiot. Oh, but health was if it was health issues. It's not.
Right.
They're like, well, but still, why would you do that? That's just crazy. I'm like, maybe Royce is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's tired.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know.
Right.
So the next drive, Royce goes in, does get the ball, and doesn't get a first down anyway. Still, and then Washington State until the game. So still after the game, people are still cracking on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent a text to Campbell. I said, dude, people are freaking out because Royce was in the game second to last possession. He's like, what? Why? I go, because he wasn't in the game. They're like, dude, people are crazy. He's like, Royce was gassed.
Yeah, I'm
If I
sure.
put him in, he wouldn't have been as effective. He might have fumbled because he rushed for 2-something that game. He's like, he was just gassed. He was tired. So I went with capable back. You know, things happen, and then he came in the next series. So then I passed on to someone on Twitter. I was like, again, I could have just let it go.
Mhm.
No, like it's like I hate ignorance.
Right.
I want to say no, learn, understand. It's just it's a compulsion I have. And so I said to him, look, I found out from someone that he was gassed, and this person was still like, well, he needs to suck it up. Well, he got tested after the game. Like he was just being a total jackass about it. So I screenshot it. I sent it to Campbell, and Campbell was like, "What an idiot!" So I told the guy that the Oregon coach just said you're an idiot. He's like, what? How dare an Oregon coach say that? And I was like, dude, pay attention to what's going on here. I'm giving you inside information. I'm trying to explain to you from an insider that a coach said this is why Freeman wasn't playing, and you still want to call these guys morons.
Uh-huh.
That's an example of like where I'm just compelled to try and explain to people. Like I've texted parents about people criticizing their kids who don't know what they're talking about, and the parents watching the debate with the person about it. And the parents are like, God, these people are stupid. I'm like,
Yeah.
so anyway, that's where it comes from. I want to educate the masses.
That's right. You do a good job. Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time again out of your crazy busy schedule and being on my show. I know I've made it now that I have had Aaron
I
Fentress.
know I've made it because, like I said, I follow you on Instagram and I see things pop up. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm just not good enough to do this show. I guess, some 18-year-old kid who's never even played a game in Oregon.
Right.
So Wade is a 4-star recruit on 24/7.
Well, now your dreams have come true. You've been on my show. And I appreciate it. This has been very entertaining, like I know it would be. And I really do appreciate you taking the time, though.
No problem.
So again, this is Gina Moore with More Than Sports. Thanks for watching.